I was originally going to make an Alfred Hitchcock movies ranked video until I found out that Hitchcock has made over 50 movies, so yeah, not happening. Instead, welcome to this new series called the Director Retrospective. There is quite a bit of directors that I'd love to make a video on someday, but have just made too many movies, some of which are very obscure, to condense into one video. So here's how this is going to work. The first part of this video will be me discussing the director's legacy and style of filmmaking, the second part will be my thoughts on the movies that I've seen from the director so far, and the third part will be my ratings and ranking of each film. Anyways, Hitchcock. Let's address the elephant in the room right away. This guy's a dick. Some of his most disgusting moments include using real birds to attack Tippi Hedren during the making of The Birds, even though he told Tippi that they would be mechanical, and sexually harassing Tippi Hedren on the set of Marnie, and when she called him out, he attempted to prevent Tippi from ever starring in a movie ever again. So yeah, Alfred's a cock, but separate art from the artist. Anyways, Hitchcock has gone down as one of the most influential and important film directors of all time. Even if you haven't seen one of his movies, you're at least aware of the name or have seen his work parodied in other popular media. During the course of his career, he directed over 50 movies, produced a TV show titled Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and was given the tagline, "The Master of Suspense." Hitchcock had a famous theory involving suspense called Hitchcock's bomb theory. As Hitchcock put it, imagine you're watching a movie where a bomb is hidden under a table. If the bomb suddenly goes off at the end, then the result is a 15-second surprise. However, if the audience is made aware of the bomb at the very beginning, then the result is a heart-pounding suspense throughout the entire movie. Although Hitchcock does have twists and surprises from time to time, most of his action involves this psychological and brutal use of suspense. Also, before I talk about the movies themselves, I want to mention one more thing because I think it's cool. Alfred Hitchcock makes a cameo appearance in most of his movies. Now, this isn't like a Stan Lee cameo in a Marvel movie where it's incredibly obvious. Hitchcock's cameos are more reminiscent of an Easter egg or a Where's Waldo book. So I had an idea. For every movie I talk about, I'm going to randomly show the clip from the film that Hitchcock appears in, and it's your job to find him. Just as a mini scavenger hunt that also stays true to Hitchcock's original intent. Anyways, here are the movies. The 39 Steps is pretty great. It's a good murder mystery film, and I especially like the final act. It's also just cool to look back on a film so early in Hitchcock's career knowing what he would later make. It's definitely not perfect, I kinda wish this movie spent more time on the 39 Steps itself, and there isn't really anything about this film that makes it stand out amongst Hitchcock's other films. It's still a great movie though, and I would recommend watching it. Yeah, some of these reviews are going to be kinda short because I don't have much to say. The Lady Vanishes shows that Hitchcock had a pretty good sense of humor, unlike me of course. Iris, Gilbert, and the Cricket Boys are really fun characters. This movie is quite suspenseful at times, and the mystery is very engaging. Also, this movie has a really good twist. My favorite Hitchcock movies are the ones that take a unique spin on the mystery and thriller genre. And although this isn't the funniest movie I've ever seen, the more comedic edge makes it stand out amongst Hitchcock's other movies.
Come in.
Rebecca is definitely Hitchcock's most underrated film. The performances are phenomenal, especially Judith Anderson and Laurence Olivier. This movie's cinematography is beautiful, and I especially love the use of shadows. The way Hitchcock mixes romance, mystery, and even psychological horror so seamlessly is just marvelous. The gothic set design is fantastic, and that ending is a perfect cherry on top. This is a film that dives into the dangers of envy in a very brilliant way, and I would highly recommend watching this if you haven't already. Shadow of a Doubt is Hitchcock's spin on a family drama, and it's pretty solid. Uncle Charlie is an okay character, but nothing about him stands out amongst other mysterious Hitchcock characters. Young Charlie is a good character, but she can be a bit annoying at parts. Although these two characters aren't very good, they work off each other really well. Also, Jack Graham and Herbie Hawkins are pretty funny comic relief characters. This movie is pretty suspenseful, and the music really adds to the suspense of the movie. The script for this movie is a bit generic, but it has some charm and good dialogue. This movie has some good comedy, as I've briefly mentioned earlier. However, my biggest problem with this movie is I thought the ending was very unsatisfactory. Not as in love with this movie as other Hitchcock movies, but it's still a great movie that I would recommend watching. Spellbound is an interesting one. Dr. Constance is a great lead and a very likable character. John is a very well-written and well-acted character. And Dr. Murchison is a very complex character. The cinematography is dark and atmospheric. The music is incredible and really adds to the movie's suspense. The surreal visual effects during the dream sequence are spectacular, especially for the 40s. The art director for the dream sequence was none other than Salvador Dali, and wow did he do a fantastic job here. The romance between Dr. Constance and John is charming. The mystery and psychological thriller aspects of the movie are great. Also, the ending wraps everything up very nicely. Although not one of Hitchcock's best, it's still very great and I would recommend watching it. Also, it's pretty funny seeing some of Hitchcock's films with very overt feminist messages, considering Hitchcock became a huge incel later on.
It's Slender Man!
Kill yourself!
Notorious is Hitchcock's take on a spy thriller, and I think he did a terrific job. Moody cinematography, haunting music, and very effective suspense, especially during the last 30 minutes. Claude Rains, Cary Grant, and Ingrid Bergman all give shining performances. This is also an early instance of Hitchcock's trademark MacGuffin, which in this case is a bottle of uranium. For those who don't know, a MacGuffin is basically an object that one or many of the characters desire, and he uses this to great effect. Don't have much else to say, just an amazing movie. Remember Hitchcock's bomb theory? Well, Hitchcock took that theory and made a film about it called Rope. Well, it's a dead body instead of a bomb, but it's the same idea at its core, and it works really well. The acting is incredible, especially from the two egotistical main characters. The cinematography is impressive, with the film comprising of mostly long takes. I love how this movie takes place in one room, which gives off a very claustrophobic and tense feeling. This movie had me on the edge of my seat the entire time, which proves that Hitchcock's theory was correct. Yeah, it's a classic, and I'd highly recommend watching it. Snakes on a Plane, I mean Strangers on a Train is just brilliant. Although it's one of Hitchcock's more ridiculous and over-the-top films, that's kinda what makes the film so fun. Bruno is an extremely great, threatening, and intimidating character. The cinematography is gorgeous and Hitchcock's trademark suspense is very present here. Although there are some unintentional funny editing moments here and there, this is still an amazing movie that I would recommend watching. Dial M for Murder is another classic Hitchcock film. It's very similar to Rope in the fact that most of the cinematography is long takes, and the script in particular is very reminiscent of a stage play. The acting mixed with the engaging dialogue really makes these characters stand out. Tony and Chief are great asshole, selfish characters. Margot and Mark are charming characters. The music really adds to the mysterious tone of the film. My only problem with this movie is the ending. Usually Hitchcock movies have very satisfying endings, but this one didn't work for me. Still a fantastic movie that I'd highly recommend watching. Rear Window is definitely a top 3 Hitchcock film for me. The suspense is amazingly well done and had me second-guessing myself a lot. The music is chilling but also beautiful. The cinematography is so unique considering that the whole movie is shot in one room and we only see the rest of the neighborhood through the room's windows. The acting is spectacular, especially James Stewart and Grace Kelly. The dialogue is very well written and the production design is intricate. I especially love the beginning of the movie that's just a tour of the neighborhood in one long take, which really shows Hitchcock's talent for storytelling and world building. This is definitely one of the most unique murder mystery movies I've ever seen, and that's what Hitchcock does best. The Trouble with Harry is probably the most forgettable movie I've seen from Hitchcock so far. It's not a bad film, but it's nothing special either. The cinematography is beautiful and the characters are great, but of course the best part about this movie is the comedy, and although it's not the most hilarious movie ever, the comedy does give this movie some charm and makes it stand out amongst Hitchcock's other films. However, the plot is dull and the movie isn't suspenseful at all, which is bizarre for Hitchcock. It's decent, but it's not one I'm going to revisit anytime soon. The Man Who Knew Too Much also falls on the more forgettable side. James Stewart and Doris Day are great. The final act is especially incredible. However, the rest of the movie is pretty mediocre. And the first act of this movie contains tons of brown face, so yeah, this is the Hitchcock movie I have the least to say about. Moving on.
I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor. I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor.
Vertigo is my second favorite thing that Hitchcock has ever done. My favorite is his appearance in epic rap battles of history, but this movie's okay too. The cinematography is gorgeous, the acting is amazing, and the music is brilliantly haunting. Even the use of color in this movie is brilliant, using red to symbolize lust and green to symbolize envy. However, the best part about this movie is the script. The story is Hitchcock's most absolutely bonkers, but I mean that in the best way possible. It's a gripping psychological thriller about trauma, obsession, and spiraling out of control. The story is especially incredible whenever we get that mind-bending twist. Ignore the dumb joke I said at the beginning of this segment. Vertigo is my favorite Hitchcock movie, and I'd highly recommend watching it. North by Northwest is a fantastic late 50s action mystery movie. The romance is engaging, the story is fascinating, and the action scenes are still very suspenseful even by today's standards. Cary Grant gives a great performance as the main character. The music really adds to the movie's grand spectacle. This movie is also surprisingly really funny, which once again shows that Hitchcock had a good sense of humor. For such a classic movie, you'd think I'd have a lot more to say, but I really don't. It's an incredible movie that I'd recommend watching. Honestly, what can I say about Psycho that hasn't already been said? It's iconic and it practically laid down the foundation of modern horror. This is probably one of the most manipulative movies ever made, and that's what I love about it. You think you know where a plot thread is going just for it to be thrown away right in front of your eyes. The black and white cinematography is expressive, the music is striking. Although Marion Crane is a great character, it's Norman Bates that steals the show as one of the most interesting characters in cinema history. The scene where Marion and Norman are talking to each other about Norman's mother is extremely intense, and it's literally just two people talking. The shower scene is the definition of iconic, so much so that I probably don't need to add a spoiler warning before this next sentence. Killing off the main character halfway through the movie was unheard of at the time, and it's still very effective. Also, the final scene of the movie is still really chilling. This movie does have some problems, like Sam Loomis gives a kinda awkward performance and the exposition dump was unnecessary, but I don't even care. Everything else about the movie is masterfully crafted. There's a reason why this film is so iconic. And lastly, there's The Birds. This is my least favorite Hitchcock movie I've seen so far. I know this movie's kind of a classic, but it's so unintentionally hilarious and dated. This movie isn't on the same level as other so bad it's good movies because the acting is great and the cinematography is fantastic. It's mainly just the old as hell special effects that made this movie pretty funny to me. Also, I don't think all old special effects are bad and dated. For example, the films from Georges Méliès, Un Chien Andalou, and L'Inferno have special effects that are still really damn cool, but just look at it. Also, goddamn birds are the antagonist of this film. How can anyone take this seriously? Well, many people did apparently, because when this first came out, many people developed a fear of birds because of it. Yeah, this movie was pretty laughable, but I still enjoyed it, just not in the intended way. Alright, now here's my brief ranking and ratings of each movie. Number 16, The Birds. Number 15, The Trouble with Harry. Number 14, The Man Who Knew Too Much. I'd give these 3 films a 6 out of 10. Number 13, Shadow of a Doubt. Number 12, The 39 Steps. Number 11, The Lady Vanishes. Number 10, Spellbound. I'd give these 4 films a 7 out of 10. Number 9, Notorious. Number 8, Strangers on a Train. I'd give these 2 movies an 8 out of 10. Number 7, Dial M for Murder. Number 6, Rebecca. Number 5, Rope. Number 4, North by Northwest. Number 3, Psycho. I'd give these 5 movies a 9 out of 10. Number 2, Rear Window, and number 1, Vertigo. I'd give these 2 movies a 10 out of 10. So yeah, hopefully this format kinda worked and wasn't too confusing. Subscribe or something like that. Bye bye.
What the fuck?